It all kicks off in a VIP delivery room, where a woman is about to give birth, casually flipping through a magazine. But her patience runs out, and she yells at the nurses to get this kid out of her already, all while still reading her magazine. Suddenly, a baby's cry echoes through the place, and a staff member rushes to congratulate the grandfather. Then everyone starts congratulating Miss Liu, who thanks his guests for their kindness. He then asks a maid where Shiquan is, and she replies that the young master had some business to attend to on Earth. The boy's grandfather is furious at his own son's absence, calling him a complete deadbeat. Just then, a strange scream comes from inside the delivery room, startling everyone outside. Worried about the situation, Liu stands up and asks what the heck is going on in there. Meanwhile, in the room, the mother is in shock from the bright light shining right in front of her. Upon entering the room, the grandfather and his men are completely frozen in place. The light was coming from the newborn, who was covered in yellow lightning and seemed to be having a great time with it all. The baby thinks that no one would have ever guessed a commoner would be reincarnated into this family, and even awaken a divine sense. A system screen appears, informing him that the lightning-type divine sense has been activated with sea-level power. The grandfather is stunned because his grandson was just born with a power he himself could never achieve. Dropping his cane, the grandfather shouts about the unparalleled innate divine sense his grandson possesses. The grandfather picks up his grandson and celebrates, declaring that the Liu clan has finally produced a once-in-a-generation genius. However, the baby thinks that he's going to use this chance to take everything from the clan and make sure his father never gets to reincarnate again. The maids comment on how the young master is already smiling and didn't even cry, which is a sign of a noble destiny. The elder promises to use the full power of the clan to raise the boy. The newborn, who is also our protagonist, thinks that the last 6 months since he was taken out by that scumbag have felt like a dream. 1 month after reincarnating, his mother was drinking a special tonic given to her by one of her maids. As soon as she drinks the tonic, a powerful golden light starts to glow all over her body. He gained an accelerated growth ability and reached D level, even as just an embryo. He reflects on how commoners can never match the power of the clans, and how he has already reached a level that many risk their lives to achieve. But our MC wonders what kind of ability this is, as there are no records of accelerated growth. 2 months later, he faced an absorption crisis from the mother's original embryo, but received a reward. Using his accelerated growth, he devoured the original embryo, and acquired its innate lightning-type divine sense. He's thrilled to have a lightning-type divine sense, which is one of the rarest elemental abilities. The protagonist plans to use the family's best resources to nourish himself and become even stronger. 3 months later, his lightning-type divine sense had already reached the intermediate stage of power. We see high heels and women's underwear scattered on the floor of his mother's bedroom. On the bed, a couple of pairs of feet are tangled up, getting pretty cozy. We see the woman with a blonde guy while her son is still in her belly. The lover asks if she isn't scared, and the lady says her marriage is just a political arrangement. The fetus overhears the man questioning his paternity, while his mother just asks for more. The MC complains that all this commotion is messing with his energy absorption rate, so he ends up releasing a lot of energy at once, making her complain that it burned her from the inside. At 6 months, his power hits peak D level, and he understands his mother's constitution. A handsome and serene face is watching. The man observes the woman's belly, and wonders when the darned brat is going to be born. Inside the womb, the MC opens his eyes and glares at his father with a look full of hatred. Through his vision, he reflects the man's face and calls him a filthy mutt. In a flashback, we see the young man in his past life being warned about terrible beasts. One of his injured companions tells brother Liu to get out of there as fast as he can. His friend is defeated and cries out for help while the young man just watches. Unfortunately, his friend ended up being devoured by a hideous monster while the young man watches it all happen. With a wicked smile, the traitor orders his men to feed the beast to form the spirit core. The man smirks maliciously and mockingly as he watches his victim about to be defeated. At that moment, the young man notices a giant spike coming his way, ready to strike him. His former companion impales him with a huge branch, lifting him into the air without any mercy. The protagonist looked at the wound in his chest, shocked by the betrayal he had just suffered. The scumbag starts laughing hysterically at his enemy's pathetic moment. He mocks him, saying that's what happens when someone like him overestimates his own strength. As he's thrown away, the young man accuses him of tricking him just to feed the beasts. As he's passing on, his only worry is what will happen to his younger sisters. He remembers when he said goodbye to one of them, promising he'd be home soon. Soon after, his past self grabs a weapon and gets ready to leave for a mission. The door closes, and the 3 little girls are left alone, waiting for their brother to return. Looking at the moon through the window, the girls wonder when their big brother will come back. The back in the premises, as a fetus, fills with rage and swears revenge on the one who separated him from his sisters. With his power, The fetus prepares to punch his father, who is just outside. Then the little guy lands a solid punch right in the traitor's face, catching him completely by surprise. The impact of the blow sends the man flying, and the mother is shocked by the kick she felt. The boy's father falls to the ground in immense pain, not understanding what just happened to him. The woman complains that the brat is already acting up before he's even properly born. The grandfather then orders the nurse to check what's happening inside that room. The staff member explains that the young master's talent is extraordinary, so his development is accelerated. She then reveals, startled, that the baby is about to be born and the mother is going into labor. The boy laments that before reincarnating, his limit was peak DD level, and now he's close to a breakthrough. In immense pain, the mother screams for them to call the best delivery team as quickly as possible. When he turned 1 month old, the Liu family threw a grand celebration banquet. Several important families from southern Zhao arrive, bringing gifts to celebrate the newborn. During the party, the grandfather watches a violin performance with a maid by his side. Meanwhile, 1-month-old protagonist is calmly resting in the arms of one of the maids. One of the guests congratulates Master Liu on having a grandson, but the elder seems lost in thought. A guest congratulates the boy's father, while the baby stares at the man who took him down in his past life. He becomes furious seeing the enemy who separated him from his sisters, and swears revenge right then and there. In his memories, he remembers his younger sisters excited about a giant birthday cake. In his past life, he was on the phone with Brother Chen, who was complaining about him being late for a mission. The young man apologizes, and the traitor thinks that he only hired him because of rumors that he needed money. The man advises him to use his brain, and the young man thanks him for the job opportunity. His sisters waited eagerly to eat the small piece of cake on the table. The older brother says goodbye to one of them, promising he had a job but would be back soon. Then he grabs his weapon, which was kept in a bag, and prepares to leave the house. The door closes, and the 3 little girls are left alone, anxiously awaiting his return. From the window, the girls watch the moon while waiting for their dear brother to come back. Elsewhere, a man approaches a glowing portal in the middle of a dark forest. Smoking a cigarette is the same one who was congratulating young Master G at the party. Young Master G, who appears to be the leader of this dangerous operation. With his subordinates by his side, young Master G asks how the mission is progressing. The man informs him that they've been inside for a while, and the beasts should be well fed by now. Young Master G praises old Chen, saying he was raised well and is always very efficient. Then he turns to his female companion and says they came just for her before leaving. But the woman scoffs, saying he's just another low life from the G family trying to climb the ladder. With that, the group of traitors approaches the portal to leave the desolate place. Meanwhile, one of our hero's companions warns him about a powerful beast nearby. The young master is surprised that someone is still alive, as he needs more food for the medicine. Old Chen says he doesn't know how that's possible since they were all just D-level soldiers. Suddenly, a very loud noise catches everyone's attention, and they all look in the same direction. The group's leader assesses the situation with a serious look. Soon after, they see that one of the beasts has a fresh wound on its leg. The monster then glares at our hero, who is standing alone in the middle of that desolate place. Despite being exhausted and injured, the young man stands firm, ready for the final battle. At that moment, one of the traitors slowly approaches. Young Master G demands to know where that thing came from, and how it dared to injure his beast. Upon seeing the survivor, young Master G is surprised, and calls him Yi Chen. The young man turns and calls out to Brother Chen, not understanding what's happening. Yi Chen's friend asks if he brought reinforcements while the enemies flee. Back in the present, the baby vows to avenge the deep blood feud at that very moment. He extends his arms and makes baby noises at the traitor, who watches him intently. The man is speechless, and stammers, trying to understand what the baby wants from him. The boy's father says his son wants to be held, and that this is the greatest honor of his life. With that, he picks up the baby and thanks him for the reward, while the little one pretends to cry. As soon as the man holds him, the little one starts to release a yellow energy. Then he uses his lightning-type power to give his enemy a really nasty shock. The traitor screams in pain as the electric charge courses through his entire body. From the shock, he ends up dropping the baby, who falls hard onto the mansion floor. The women at the party are startled and look toward the noise. The musicians also stop playing, shocked by all the commotion. The boy's grandfather watches everything with a serious expression. With that, the boy's parents are shocked by what just happened. The little protagonist on the floor, the old man realizes he just made a mistake. The baby starts crying loudly to keep up appearances and fool everyone. The traitor panics at the situation and starts breaking out in a cold sweat, terrified of what might happen. Furious, the grandfather yells at the man for daring to drop the Liu family's treasure on the floor. The coward throws himself on the floor, saying it wasn't him and that the young master acted on his own. But the baby's father doesn't believe him and kicks him hard, calling the guy a dog. The kick is so strong that the man goes flying and lands hard on the mansion floor. He starts to bow and begs his master for mercy. He swears he would never hurt the boy, and offers his treasures to heal him from the fall. The little one's father seems to be enjoying the whole situation, and gives a mocking smile. Then the master orders them to drag the man outside and give him a good thrashing. The traitor thanks him for the punishment, while the maid picks the baby back up. In the woman's arms, the little protagonist gives an evil, satisfied smirk at the result. With a bruised forehead, the enemy stares on, confused, not understanding what happened. The little one continues to scream and cry loudly to maintain his perfect disguise in front of everyone. The old traitor is shocked again that he started crying again. The grandfather orders the maid to take the young master inside and check if he was hurt in the fall. The elder scolds his son, saying that with the family status, they don't need a useless bum like that. With a disdainful snort, the head of the family turns and leaves the party, furious about the whole mess. The boy's father is enraged by the old man's words and clenches the glass in his hand with great force. He shatters the glass cup with his bare hands. The host turns and delivers a powerful kick right to the traitor's face. Right after, he kicks him again and orders him to be dragged outside and fed to the house dogs. The guards grab him as he begs for mercy, but no one cares about his suffering. The host tells the guests to continue the party, and the baby thinks about how to absorb more power. The doctor examined the little one and says he has an incredible physique and is perfectly fine. The grandfather laughs and celebrates that his grandson suffered no harm and is in excellent health. But the most important thing for the boy now is to find his 3 sisters he left behind. He needs to grow up fast enough to move and get that woman's essence. The baby starts crying for milk and the doctor. With that, the elder orders them to call his daughter-in-law to breastfeed him and take more spiritual medicine. The boy's mother complains that she just fed him and is already completely exhausted. The family head says she must work hard for the future of the clan and for the good of her son. The woman takes off her coat and prepares to feed the baby once more against her will. The little one opens his mouth and starts crying as he waits to be fed by his mother. The mother picks him up and stares at him with her red eyes. She starts to breastfeed him and complains that the little rascal is sucking way too hard. Seeing that his daughter-in-law is getting weak, the grandfather orders them to bring her the tonic soup. Soon after, we see the baby taking a bath with his mother in a hot spring. The woman complains that he's been sucking for a long time and asks if she owes him something from a past life. 3 months later, the baby is already crawling around the house, and his power has reached C level. In his past life, it took him a year advance from elementary D level to intermediate. Back then, he took part in many dangerous missions in portals and suffered countless injuries. He's advanced from elementary C level to intermediate in just 3 months by drinking milk. During a family dinner, the little protagonist crawls towards the main table. Furious, the grandfather complains that some idiot wasn't watching the young master and let him run around. The maid apologizes, saying the boy crawls so fast she can't keep up with him. The baby's father jokes that his son must want milk again, and the mother looks exhausted. She complains that the boy has been on her chest for 3 months and that she needs a break. But the little one thinks he can't waste time and needs to keep getting stronger and stronger. To everyone's surprise, the baby stands up on his own for the first time. The grandfather and the butler are completely shocked to see the unbelievable sight before them. The boy starts walking towards his mother, who watches him, startled. The little one jumps on her, and the mother screams for him to let her eat a meal in peace. The maid is astonished and points out that the young master is standing and walking around the room by himself. The butler comments that the boy has a celestial constitution, and his development is extraordinary. The grandfather is pleased to see his grandson can already stand and watches him with pride. Then he says that according to family rules, it's time to select a personal servant for the boy. In a dark place, the elder asks about the results, and a guard says only 2 are left. In his mother's arms, the protagonist is taken to an improvised arena for the test. He watches everything intently when he suddenly recognizes one of the candidates and is shocked. In a cell, a little girl with white hair is in a defensive stance and looks frightened. On the other side, a blonde girl charges forward, yelling to attack and defeat her opponent in the arena. Shocked, the baby wonders what she's doing there, and his body begins to glow intensely. Then he uses his lightning-type power to zap one of the fighting girls. With the force of the shock, the blonde girl goes flying and lands hard on the ground, knocked out instantly. The white-haired girl takes the chance to jump on the bread, without a want of times causes. Second thought, the girl grabs the bread and starts devouring it hungrily in the middle of the cell. Mother's hair is all standing on end. The protagonist panics, hoping no one noticed anything suspicious. The grandfather laughs and says his grandson has a much greater fighting spirit than his own father. The boy thinks that being a kid is useful because adults always make up excuses for him. The elder decides the little girl will be the servant and orders her to be washed and taught etiquette. The little one continues to eat ferociously, not caring about anything else around her. The baby in the crib seems very happy and calls out to his new servant with a smile on his face. Meanwhile, the butler explains that she is a death servant and must protect the young master. The little white-haired girl just nods her head, accepting her new fate. He also says she must follow the master and train in martial arts while he sleeps. With that, the little maid goes to the baby's room to start her new job. Upon arriving, the boy calls to her, and points to himself with a very excited smile. But the girl pulls out a knife, and her expression changes to one full of hatred and vengeance. The baby panics and tries to speak but can't because of his vocal cords. She says she's going to take him out to avenge her older brothers, passing right then and there. The girl raises the weapon and prepares to attack the little one in his crib. The servant lunges with the knife at high speed, ready to hit her defenseless target. However, the boy dodges the blow with incredible agility and jumps out of the crib. He lands on the floor, leaving behind an energy silhouette, much to the girl's surprise. Then the baby reappears beside her, leaving her completely shocked and speechless. Suddenly, the girl starts to release a green aura as she prepares to fight. The protagonist is shocked to see that the girl has a malting, wind-type divine sense. With that, she attacks him with her wind power, but the baby uses his lightning to defend himself. The two energies clash, illuminating the entire room with their vibrant and intense colors. He thinks that using both his powers at the same time is too much for his baby body. He has a brilliant idea to resolve this complicated situation. So, the MC points and uses his thunder divine sense at a very low power level. With that, a small spear of lightning hits the girl. The shock paralyzes her for a moment, and she falls to the floor, unable to move properly. The little one seems relieved with the result, but is clearly very tired from the effort. Lying on the floor, the servant can still feel the electricity running through her entire body. He approaches carefully and touches the sharp blade. The little one cuts his finger on purpose, and a drop of blood appears on the tip. Then he uses his own blood to write a message on the floor for her. He thinks it's a good thing. He's smart and managed to come up with this plan to communicate. Upon reading the message, the girl understands everything, and the baby opens his arms for a hug. But the girl attacks him again, and the baby remembers she can't read yet. He dodges the blow and worries, because if someone sees her trying to attack him, she'll be done for. Meanwhile, the traitor walks through the mansion holding a wooden box in his hands. In a flashback, the boy's father says that he's only alive because he's still useful to him. Lying on the floor, the man thanks the young master for his mercy and promises to work harder. The master says the grandfather is furious and that he must find a way to please the baby. The man thinks that he sold everything he had to buy a rare item at an auction. Suddenly, he hears the little master's voice and wonders what's happening in the room. With that, he opens the door and enters the room, calling for the heir of the Liu family. Upon entering, he is met with the scene of the two of them chasing each other around the room. Seeing an opportunity, the baby glares at the man with a dark look and a plan in mind. The traitor is completely confused, not understanding anything that's happening. Then the boy grabs the servant's hand and turns the knife. He uses his lightning power to give the white-haired girl a little shock on her forehead. She falls to the floor, and the baby catches the knife in mid-air, completing his perfect plan. Without hesitation, the baby stabs himself in the shoulder, and the knife becomes covered in blood. The traitor is utterly shocked by the scene and screams in terror, not believing his eyes. Next, the boy throws the bloodied knife towards the man watching him. The poor guy catches the weapon in mid-air and freezes in fear, not knowing what to do. In his shock, he ends up dropping the box he was holding. Then the little protagonist takes a deep breath, preparing for his big performance. Soon after, he starts wailing loudly on top of the fainted girl on the rug. The man holds the bloody knife, completely desperate about the whole situation. At the sound, the grandfather and the others come running to see what happened. The elder and his son stare at the scene with serious expressions. The little one keeps crying and leans on the servant to make it look like he protected her. Furious, the grandfather points at the traitor and accuses him of trying to attack his grandson. The man throws the knife on the floor and tries to defend himself, saying he wasn't the one to blame. But the father doesn't believe him and punches him for daring to hurt his son. Desperately, he explains that the girl attacked the baby and he defended himself. The baby continues his crying act while the traitor screams in desperation with a bloody nose. Swears to the elder that he's telling the truth, but no one seems to believe his story. The boy's father hits him with another punch and furiously asks where the gift island. Desperate, the man looks for the gift he dropped on the floor during all the chaos. The grandfather praises the little girl for protecting his grandson and orders her to be taken to rest. The elder places his hand on the young master's shoulder, who tenses up. The elder glares at him, his red eyes glowing intensely with rage. He says he taught his son how to raise dogs, but he almost lost the Liu family's hope. The group leaves the room, leaving the traitor kneeling on the floor, utterly terrified. The man starts to break into a cold sweat and tremble with fear of what might happen to him now. Suddenly, the baby's father turns and glares at him with a look full of hatred and contempt. He kicks him hard and says he gave him a chance, but he dared to try and hurt him anyway. The man tries to explain, but the master orders him to be dragged out and fed to the dogs. Seeing his plan succeed, the little protagonist finally sighs in relief at the outcome. With a wound on his shoulder, the little one looks at the unconscious girl on the floor, worried. Just then, the butler approaches and says he needs to take the servant to be treated immediately, but he panics when he remembers he wrote a message on the floor right under her. So, the boy lies down on top of the girl and shakes his head to stop the man from taking her. The staff member then picks up the little master, lifting him off the unconscious girl. With that, the butler places him back in the crib, while the boy looks very distressed. Seeing that the man is about to pick up the servant, he wonders if he should knock him out with an electric shock. Suddenly, an idea strikes him, and he looks towards the maid with a new plan in mind. The staff member picks up the little girl, and a pool of blood is left on the bedroom floor. The protagonist is shocked to see that the servant is also genuinely injured. Seeing the blood stain on the girl's clothes, the butler is also very surprised. The little one is confused by the situation, and doesn't understand how she could have gotten hurt, that he takes her outside, and orders the young master's room to be cleaned up. Alone in the crib, the boy sighs in relief, but wonders what is going on. But he puts it aside as he has more important things to do at that moment. He jumps out of the crib, ready for his next plan. In a message room, a special oil is being prepared for his mother. The woman then receives a relaxing back message from one of the housemaids. The boy's mother seems very relaxed, enjoying her rare moment of peace. But the tranquility ends when the little one calls for milk, suddenly startling her. He crawls over to her, and the woman complains that he's here again with his huge appetite. The boy begins to feed, and the mother complains, asking how long he's going to keep sucking. But he needs to speed up his growth, so he can talk and explain everything to servant. A week later, time is just flying by in the Fancy Lou family mansion. And just like that, our main character now looks like a 3-year-old and has finally gotten the hang of talking. The little white-haired servant girl is still giving him some serious side-eye. She's still convinced he's the one to blame for everything that went down with her older brother. So the kid turns to Yi and just drops the bomb. He's her brother. The girl is, totally floored. She just freezes up, and her eyes turn a deep shade of red. Then he asks her if the cake her brother bought for her was any good. That question sends her down memory lane, and she starts getting super emotional. In her memories, she recalls her brother calling her, and her other sisters to come eat some cake. The 3 little girls get crazy excited seeing a birthday cake right in front of them. She remembers her big brother cutting a slice of cake for his little sisters. The girl recalls him on the phone, getting orders to join his team for a mission. One of the sisters tries to snatch a piece, but another one stops her, telling her to wait for their brother. After that, the 3 little ones are at the window, watching the moon and waiting for him to come back. In that moment, the face of his old self appears reflected in the full moon, like a memory. In the moon's reflection, his old face blends with his current baby face. He looks at the little girl with a gentle smile, his eyes welling up with tears. Realizing it's him, she can't hold it in anymore, and just starts crying. She collapses to the floor and starts bawling her eyes out, just wailing uncontrollably. He covers her mouth and shushes her so no one finds out their secret. With his tiny hand, he tries to muffle the girl's sobs so they don't get caught. Right after, she throws her arms around him, hugging him with all her might, feeling a mix of relief and happiness. Still crying, the little girl asks if the one in front of her is really her beloved brother. But the hug is so tight that he complains he can't breathe in his little kid body. She lets him go, and our guy is a little dizzy, trying to catch his breath. Once he recovers, he gets serious and looks at his sister, needing answers. She watches him intently, tears still streaming down her face. So he grabs her and asks how she ended up here, and where their other sisters are. With so many questions, the girl gets overwhelmed and asks her brother to slow down. Finally, the 2 of them calm down and get ready to talk about everything that's happened. The girl starts to explain that on that day, he left for a mission and just never came back. In a flashback, the 3 hungry sisters are waiting, staring at the cake he bought. One of the girls wondered why their brother was taking so long to get back. The youngest one even asks if he abandoned them, since had never been gone for so long. So Yi decided to go look for him and found out about his disappearance at the mission headquarters. There, she saw another hunter's wife yelling at the traitor about her husband vanishing. The guy, having zero patience, called her crazy and shoved her away forcefully. Another hunter shows up and accuses the man of going into the portal with young Master Liu and the others. In that moment, the little servant girl understood that this man was behind everything. The traitor just watches with an annoyed look on his face, casually smoking his cigarette. He unleashes his firepower, getting ready to attack his accuser. A fireball flies toward the man, who's just frozen in fear by the attack. He takes a direct hit, and his body is completely engulfed by the intense flames. The man drops to the ground, defeated, while the others just watch the scene, doing nothing. He warns them that spreading rumors about the young master is a dumb move, since the mission was high risk. Our guy says the traitor got what was coming to him for double-crossing them, and then asks about the other girls. Hearing the question about the others, the little one's expression changes, and she looks really worried. She starts crying all over again, leaving her brother totally confused. Startled by his sister's sudden reaction, he worriedly asks what happened to them. Through her tears, the girl explains she just wanted to get revenge for her brother, but then a whole tide of demons just appeared out of nowhere. Flashback to a portal ripping open, and everyone is just scrambling for their lives as the invasion begins. The memory of that demonic tide has her absolutely intimidated. Petrified, she tears through the wrecked streets, frantically screaming the names of her other two sisters. Meanwhile, a couple of hunters stroll by, casually remarking that, yep, this monster wave was a pretty nasty one. She's left standing all alone, just watching as the city burns, completely obliterated. With tears streaming down her face, she runs aimlessly through all the chaos and destruction. The poor girl continues her search alone, picking her way through the rubble of the city devastated by the invasion. With her hands all scraped up, she collapses to the ground, screaming her sisters' names in absolute despair. That's when she remembers her brother, and just breaks down, sobbing and wondering where he could possibly be. Back in the present, our MC's a main character comforts his sister, telling her not to cry, because they've been given a second chance. His eyes flash red as he vows that some guy named Chen is going to be the very first to pay for this. In some dark and grimy prison, we cut to a hallway that's just splattered with stains. The traitor is locked up, screaming his head off that he's innocent and was just there to deliver a gift. Next thing you know, he slammed against the cell bars, a look of pure terror on his face. Because surprise, a demon materializes right behind the terrified prisoner. The traitor drops to his knees, begging for his life as the creature closes in, its tongue lolling out. All we hear is a horrified scream, and suddenly, the prison hallway has a few more red stains. The traitor out of the picture, our MC declares it's time to turn the entire Liu family upside down. Tears still in her eyes, his sister agrees, promising she'll do whatever he says. That's when she remembers she has a very important mission to take care of with our MC. So, she just hoists him into the air, announcing it's bath time, but he protests, yelling that he's her brother. But the another 9 girl explains that now, she's his personal attendant, and this is her daily mission. And just like that, she starts carrying him off to the bathroom, all while he's screaming bloody murder that he absolutely, positively, does not want a bath. Cut to the bathroom, where our MC is now sitting in a wash basin as she gets everything ready for his bath. She walks up to him and says it's time to get his clothes off, but our MC insists he can handle it himself. But she's not listening, and with a grin, she just eats his clothes right into the air. She looks down and chirps about how cute his little fella island. Our MC is absolutely mortified, basically dying on the inside from the sheer awkwardness of it all. Super embarrassed, he yells at her not to look, reminding her yet again that this is not okay. She then declares that since she's bigger now, it's her turn to give him a bath. Shocked, the MC asks what in the world she's doing as she starts taking off her own clothes. The boy covers his eyes, completely embarrassed by her actions. Then she gets into the tub, wrapped in a towel, leaving the boy totally stunned. While she's washing him, she vents about how much people are suffering out there, while the rich just waste everything. Our MC gets furious and says that justice is something you have to take with your own hands. With that, his face sets into a look of fierce determination to change the reality. A moment later, the girl offers to scrub him, better, sending him into a full-blown panic. They start bickering because he refuses, but she insists she was instructed to do it. After the bath, the boy is lying on the floor while his sister puts away his clothes. He's thinking how humiliating it is to be the older brother and get treated like a little kid. The girl asks him what's wrong, but he just turns his face away, pouting, and doesn't answer. She gets sad at his attitude, and complains that he's never been this mean to her before. To avoid more conversation, just lets out a sigh. But then he gets up, says he's not mad anymore, and that he has something important to ask. The girl smiles sweetly and tells him to go ahead and ask whatever he wants. No problem. So, he questions if she has awakened wind element abilities, and his sister confirms it. Our MC is floored because the earliest recorded case of an awakening was at age 12. He wonders how she managed to pull off such a feat. Being so young and with zero training, she just shakes her head and says she's not really sure how it happened either. She explains that a panel just popped up, showing her stats and guiding her to awaken her power. Our MC is completely blown away to hear the word panel coming from her. In that instant, he remembers his own system, the one that displays his thunder abilities. He glances at the interface and wonders if her dialogue box is the same kind of thing. Then he asks himself how his sister also got a panel and awakened so incredibly young. She notices he zoned out and asks if something's wrong, but he just brushes it off. He tells her that now that she's awakened her ability, she needs to train hard to get strong. With a determined look, the little girl replies that she's going to train super hard from now on. He pats her on the head and says that out of all the sisters, she was always the most responsible one. Suddenly, they both hear a knock at their bedroom door and freeze. A maid announces that dinner is ready, and that the master ordered their mother to prepare some milk for him. She hands a full baby bottle to the MC's sister, who just stares at it, surprised. She takes the bottle, and our MC walks over to her with a new plan already forming in his mind. He says they need to use every resource the Liu family has to get stronger and fast. The girl asks how they're supposed to do that, since she's already training as hard as she can to level up. With a mischievous grin, he tells her to open her mouth and discover the secret to power. Although she's a little hesitant, the girl opens her mouth, curious about what her brother is up to. He then pops the bottle into her mouth and tells her to drink up and see what happens. Following his order, she starts drinking the milk while our MC watches her intently. All of a sudden, a purple aura starts swirling around her, and she's shocked by the sensation. Confused, she asks her brother why so much power is flowing into her body so easily. Our MC explains that their mother's unique constitution turns crystals into something like pure energy. He says it's a substance that even elite squads would have a hard time getting their hands on during missions. But their mom can produce this essence continuously, making her an endless wellspring of power. His sister is shocked, commenting that this is something unheard of at the academy. Our MC suspects that the noble families are hiding secrets and manipulating the masses into fighting their battles for them. With a determined glare, he concludes that they have to uncover every last one of these hidden secrets. His sister then offers him the bottle, telling him to drink some too so he can get stronger. But he refuses, telling her to finish it all and hit her power limit first. Then he starts walking away, his eyes fixed on his next objective. He says out loud that he's gonna go eat too while his sister keeps drinking from the bottle. Arriving at his mother's room, the maids wonder why he's back there again. The next thing we see is the boy feeding directly from his mother in the household's pool. The woman complains that she's already provided so much milk that the little brat just eats and eats without stopping. One of the maids quickly orders the others to prepare more medicinal meals for the pride. Madam, our MC thinks to himself that the revenge starts now, and that he and his sister are about to append the very order of the heavens. As lightning crashes down over the mansion, he swears that he will turn the Liu family completely upside down. Our hero crawls across his bedroom floor, a determined look on his face as he searches for something. Meanwhile, we get a flashback of the traitor freaking out, screaming that the gift was God's in his hand as he frantically looks for it. Then our MC peeks under a piece of furniture and spots the little box the traitor dropped. With a satisfied smirk, he grabs the gift, figuring it must be something incredibly valuable to the family. He then opens the box, and an intense blue light illuminates his tiny face. Inside, he finds a large blue crystal, and wonders if it's a magic beast crystal. A system panel immediately pops up, informing him that it's a rare thunder element skill crystal. Our MC is confused as he had no idea skills could be absorbed instead of cultivated. The system explains that after hunting evolved beasts, there's a chance to get these rare items. Our little guy is surprised that something like this even exists, but gets suspicious, asking how the voice knows his thoughts. In that moment, he's totally shocked, a look of pure panic on his face as he realizes what's happened. The voice says it's in his consciousness, and he scoffs, saying he knows all about these tropes from novels. He remembers that in his past life, he was a student addicted to games and web novels that had systems. In those stories, the main characters get rewards and turn the tables, getting revenge on their enemies. Furious, he yells that the system is useless, but the voice retorts that without it, he wouldn't have even been reincarnated. The MC pauses, thinks for a moment, and has to admit the mysterious voice has a point. With his arms crossed, he then questions its connection to his little sister's system. The voice denies any sort of link and urges him to get stronger and fast. He agrees and gets focused, knowing he needs to take every opportunity he can get. He then sits down on the floor and with intense concentration, begins to absorb the crystal's energy. With that, a powerful, divine energy starts flowing through his small body. A moment later, he holds out his hand and successfully summons his new skill Lightning Spear. He's completely floored, having just acquired a skill that should have taken 10 years to master. He feels the power condensed in the spear, and wonders just how strong it really is. Without a second thought, he hurls the weapon with all his might to test out his new power. The protagonist watches, as his powerful electric attack flies through the air. The sound of the explosion gets the grandfather's attention, who comes running with the butler to see what happened. But what they find is the boy's father, in his SpongeBob underwear, complaining to the MC's mom about the noise. The grandfather and the MC's little sister are completely floored by the scene. The boy looks at the giant hole he just blasted in the mansion wall with his new skill. Furious, the grandfather demands to know who did it, and the butler explains he heard a lightning bolt come from the room. But upon seeing his grandson, the old man's mood flips, and he lifts him up, celebrating his new divine skill. He then praises the boy's mother, thanking her so being for productive for the family. However, the boy's father seems irritated by the whole situation and complains about the noise he made. At that, the grandfather scolds him, saying he should be proud of his son's exceptional talent. The grandfather then decides he will take his grandson to the family's annual hunting festival. A moment later, the family head asks the butler if everything is arranged for the event. The old man laughs, saying his descendants need to learn their true worth from a young age. Cradled in his mother's arms, our protagonist is annoyed, having no idea what they're planning. And so, the group walks down a long hallway toward the location of the hunting festival. Once there, the grandfather uses his energy to open a massive circular gate in front of them. The gate opens, revealing a large, swirling vortex of bright purple energy to everyone. Standing before the dimensional portal, the family head prepares to lead the group inside. The MC is stunned, realizing the Liu family can open dimensional portals all by themselves. He gets angry, thinking about how many secrets the powerful hide from the weak, who are just struggling to survive. The group then steps through the portal and arrives in a dense, quiet forest on the other side. While the grandfather praises him, the mixed mom complains that he never stops eating all day. Suddenly, the MC's father points to the sky and yells a warning that something is approaching. Everyone looks up to see a smoke trail closing in on them rapidly. The mysterious thing zips through the trees at incredible speed. Soon, a giant multi-headed serpent appears and brutally attacks a group of hunters. One hunter tries to strike the creature, but his weapon shatters, while another uses a force field to defend himself. When he sees a C-rank python and a B-rank python king in a C-rank portal, the protagonist and his sister are in shock, and the girl recognizes one of the hunters. Just then, one of the serpents lunges toward one of the female hunters. To everyone's surprise, the red-haired girl manages to hold the creature's mouth open with her bare hands, but she's struggling with all her might to avoid being bitten by the giant monster's sharp fangs. Even so, the serpent's strength is too great, and it knocks her away with a single blow. The hunter's leader then yells for everyone to fight as they retreat from the dangerous area. The group's leader tries to fend off the monster with a shield, but another hunter tries to attack him from behind. The red-haired girl runs and screams desperately for him to watch out, but the hunter's punch goes right through the shield, hitting the captain with full force. The force of the punch makes the hunter fighting the serpent lose his shield. At that moment, the giant serpent is struck by a purple lightning bolt coming from another hunter. Another hunter yells furiously at the traitor for attacking their captain. The traitor just smiles wickedly as he prepares to attack the other man. With a violent blow, he mercilessly attacks the hunter, leaving him gravely injured. One of the other hunters is shocked, as he seems to have recognized the attacker. He reveals that the man is Kui Aisheng, a criminal who had been convicted before. Kui Sheng starts laughing like a maniac at the hunter's desperation. He then kicks the man, sending him flying with incredible force. The injured hunter soars right into the mouth of the giant serpent, which was waiting for him. Our little protagonist watches it all with a grim expression. He remembers his past life when Kui Sheng threw a friend to his doom. A splash of blood appears, symbolizing what just happened. Back then, he watched his friends get taken out one by one. The monster they were feeding with their own comrades emerges, imposing and terrifying. With a cruel smile, the MC's father orders them to feed the creature to form a treasure. He then tells Kui Sheng to attack our hero's past self without a second thought. The henchman rushes toward the young man, ready to deliver the blow. But the guy activates his power and braces for the inevitable clash with his enemy. Ice Fist glows with a powerful energy as he closes in. Their two fists collide in a violent, power-filled impact. He tells us that Kui Aisheng is like a demon who loves to crush people. It's revealed that he was protected by the Liu family and is now one of their goons. Back in the present, his sister wonders how they can possibly save the red-haired girl. But our protagonist seems to have an idea, and his eyes gleam, a plan already forming in his mind. So, he turns around and starts feeding again, which really ticks off his mom. She asks what in the world he's doing as our MC fills his mouth with milk, making a weird face. He spits everything out, leaving her completely shocked. Disgusted, she screams at our hero for getting her all messy and just eats him into the air. Seeing the commotion, the boy's grandpa gets this furious look on his face because of the whole mess. Right after MC's little sister leaps into action. Just like that, she catches our hero mid-air, saving him from the fall. The girl lands safely on the ground, holding her little brother carefully in her arms. She asks if her brother is okay, and he explains his master plan: create chaos to save the hunter. Suddenly, our young man's father slaps his wife hard across the face, leaving her completely stunned. He then grabs her firmly and scolds her for being so careless with their son. Furious, the woman says that not even her own parents ever dared to lay a finger on her, and she gets incredibly angry. With that, she summons an ice weapon and goes right after her husband, looking for revenge. The man defends himself with his powers, saying she needs to be taught a lesson for her audacity. The kids watch intently as the fight unfolds right in front of them. The mother and father clash with their abilities, but a burst of energy suddenly appears between them. The boy's grandfather shows up, and the MC's parents just stare at him. The grandfather says that as a mother, she must put her son first, and not be so reckless. With a furious glare, he tells them they both carry the responsibility for both of their families. At that, the couple calms down and dismisses their weapons, while the children watch from a distance. The MCS sister asks what they'll do now, but he tells her not to worry because they are coming. Suddenly, the young maid hears a strange noise. The butler informs the grandfather that he sensed movement coming from the nearby woods. The family also notices something approaching and goes on high alert. Just then, 3 goblins emerge from the forest with some really weird expressions on their faces. From a higher vantage point, we see the goblins starting to close in on the MCS family. The creatures start screaming desperately, as if they're gearing up for a battle. Next thing you know, the 3 monsters are impaled by wooden stakes that pierce right through them mercilessly. The MCS father wonders how this is possible, since the area was supposed to have been cleared beforehand. The grandfather complains, "This is what happens when all you know is how to cause trouble in bars instead of hitting the books." Just then, the boy's mother starts to glow with a purple energy. The little sister explains that their mother's essence attracts demonic beasts, especially high-level ones. With that, the sounds of many goblin feet start getting closer, putting the group on edge. Then a horde of elite goblins appears before them, led by a B rank. One of the monsters leaps toward the family, its axe ready to strike without mercy. Unfazed, the grandfather orders his subordinates to handle the situation immediately. And just like that, the family starts fighting the monsters, using their powerful elemental abilities. Taking advantage of all the chaos, our MC tells his sister it's time for them to get out of there. So, the girl runs towards a cliff with her little brother in her arms. Without a second thought, the Mises sister jumps off the cliff, plummeting at high speed with our young hero. In that instant, the girl's eyes glow intensely as she activates her special ability. Using her wind power, she begins to fly through the skies, carrying her brother to safety. Our MC asks when she learned to fly, and she says it was a reward from the system. Surprised by this revelation, our MC gets flustered and asks what kind of task it was. The girl reveals with a smile that the system's task was simply to give her brother a bath. In a flashback, we see that upon completing the mission, she received the rare flight technique as a reward. Our MC gets annoyed, wondering how a system could give such an awesome reward for such a silly task. The MCS, little redhead sister, is fighting bravely against a serpent, striking it with her sharp sword. But then, another enormous serpent appears and attacks the other hunters, shattering their shields with ease. With one powerful strike, the creature sends one of the hunters flying, completely breaking her guard. Down on the ground, the woman desperately yells to her captain that they can't keep fighting anymore. The group's captain then confronts Kui Xiong, asking why he's attacking them like this. With a wicked smile, the traitor says he enjoys hearing the screams of his victims. The leader asks who his master is, and says that violating the guild's agreement is against the law. The villain replies that laws are only for the weak and for commoners like them, and that he couldn't care less. Right after, he rushes towards the captain at high speed, ready to land a blow, but instead, he attacks one of the female hunters, catching her off guard with his incredible speed. Defeated, the woman begs her captain to save her from this terrible, heartless man. Without any mercy, the traitor tosses her directly into the giant serpent's mouth as a snack. The giant serpent devours the hunter without a shred of pity, right in front of everyone. In despair, the captain yells that the mission has failed and tells everyone to run for their lives. The redhead girl is paralyzed with fear and shock from the horrific scene she just witnessed. Blinded by rage, the group leader charges forward with his sword, screaming that he's going to finish the traitor. He unleashes a powerful strike, but the villain moves quickly and dodges the attack with ease. In an instant, the traitor counterattacks and lands a direct hit on the captain. Seeing her leader wounded, the young woman calls the man a monster and prepares to fight. She then throws an object at the enemy, trying to buy some time. But the traitor doesn't even flinch, since the rock the girl threw does nothing to him. The blow just rips a part of the traitor's shirt. The villain says it's a shame they ran into him here because they are all going to perish. He leaps towards the girl, his sharp claws ready to strike. Terrified, the young woman is surrounded by the shards of a shattered sword. At the last second, the captain throws himself in front of her, taking the fatal blow in her place. The leader falls lifeless to the ground as the traitor simply ignores him and moves on. The traitor tosses the captain's body, which is then devoured by the giant serpent. Desperate, the girl screams in terror at the horrifying scene she just witnessed. We see the giant serpent devouring the captain as purple lightning arcs from its body. The villain looks at the girl and says, it's a shame because he wanted to add her to his collection. He wanted to turn her into one of his specimens, to display her like a trophy. With his blood-stained hand, he prepares to attack the girl. The villain then places his hand on her face as she cries, completely desperate. In her final moments, the girl cries out for her siblings, wondering where they are. Suddenly, a giant lightning sword appears, and a voice says they've arrived to save her. The traitor turns and manages to block the powerful attack with his arm. The strike causes a burst of yellow energy, but the villain just swats it away. The young woman looks up in surprise and calls out her sister's name, Yi. Just then, our MC and his sister land on the ground, ready for battle. The girl recognizes the MC's former appearance and calls him brother. Our MC tells his sister, he'll explain everything later. But right now, they've got bigger fish to fry. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl is just watching him with this "what in the world is happening?" look on her face. Facing the serpent, our hero realizes the beast has evolved by munching on awakeners, something that's never been recorded before. At the same time, the villain looks like he's breaking free from something, as this intense yellow energy swirls around him. With a final push, he unleashes all his power at once, shattering whatever was holding him back in an instant. The baddie then glares at them and scoffs, asking if it isn't the young master and his little servant girl. And just like that, the trio of siblings faces their opponent, ready for the fight that's about to go down. The redhead asks, totally confused, how they knew about her and why they had the other little girl with them. But the bad guy just ignores her question and starts plotting how he's gonna handle this new situation. Our MC then realizes his enemy isn't he some brain-dead goon, but actually a pretty sharp cookie. The man reveals his master plan: turn the servant girl into a mindless puppet and deliver our MC to his boss. We then see the aftermath of the villain's power, having taken down several hunters without mercy. Multiple weapons made of red energy appear hovering over the defeated hunters, revealed that the enemy has a metal-type power, allowing him to merge weapons with his own body. Our protagonist then analyzes their power levels and realizes the gap between them is just massive. But then, an idea sparks in our protagonist's mind, and his eyes light up. He turns to his sisters and tells them to listen carefully and follow his lead. On the other side, the adversary gets ready to fight as a strange energy radiates from him. The villain launches a lightning-fast attack with his claws, aimed straight at our MC. Seeing the danger, his sisters jump back, and he prepares to counter. He then activates his divine lightning type awakening, unleashing an immense yellow energy. Our protagonist uses his power to dodge the villain's attacks at super speed. The villain is floored when he sees the kid's technique, recognizing it as a forbidden move. He then remembers that a while back he defeated someone who used that exact same technique. In his memories, he recalls the showdown against our protagonist's past life. Connecting the dots, he realizes who the kid is, and starts laughing at the insane coincidence. However, our MC's child, cis body, can't handle that much power and begins to fail. Knowing he only has one shot, he yells his sisters' names to kick off the real plan. The villain hears a noise and whips his head toward the sound. In that moment, the red-haired sister appears, holding a giant boulder, ready to crush the enemy. And without a second thought, the girl hurls the massive rock right at the villain. But the enemy dodges the attack with ease, and the boulder shatters on the ground from the impact. He then notices a weird sound and a trail of green energy, moving quickly across the ground. The man immediately goes on high alert, seeing the energy coming his way, ready for anything. Suddenly, a gigantic storm of wind and dust forms right in front of him. The one behind this attack is the other sister, using her wind ability. Even inside the tornado, the adversary is completely unfazed, saying these are just cheap tricks. Seizing the distraction, our protagonist focuses his power and creates a full-strength lightning spear. Using a divine martial arts technique, he throws the weapon with every ounce of strength his body has left. The villain spins around surprised and curses our MC for being so crafty as he braces for the hit. The lightning spear strikes the bad guy square in the head, severely injuring him on impact. The attack is so powerful, it goes straight through the adversary and continues its path up into the sky. The spear's energy causes a massive explosion, leaving a trail of destruction in the forest. Exhausted, our MC collapses, and his sister immediately starts chewing him out for using such a reckless move. With that, both girls watch over him, super worried about his condition after he pushed himself so hard. Even though he's injured, the villain just smiles and says as it doesn't matter because he's going to protect the young master from the two little girls. With a creepy grin, he reveals a sharp blade, ready to go all out again. Wasting no time, he dashes toward the two girls at high speed to finish them off. The servant girl yells a warning and leaps in front of the raid head to shield her from the enemy's incoming attack. With a brutal blow, he lands a direct hit on the white-haired girl with incredible force. The impact sends her flying, and she ends up slamming hard against a tree. The villain then stares down the other young woman and tells her not to worry, her turn is coming right up. He morphs his hands into sharp blades and prepares for his next merciless attack. With his blades, he pins the young woman down and tells her to be good bait for his plans. But a yellow bolt of lightning zaps in and deflects the attack, saving the girl at the very last second. The enemy then takes aim at the protagonist, ready to run him through with his small dagger. He grips the weapon tightly and brings it down, fully intending to end the boy right there. The blade then pierces RMC's back, injuring him badly. The villain sends him flying while the red-haired sister watches in complete despair. The girl then manages to break free, grabs her injured brother, and makes a run for it. The villain clenches his fist, asking why our MC is in such a hurry to meet his maker. But our protagonist, cradled in his sister's arms, replies that actually, the enemy is the one about to be taken down. With his eye bleeding, the adversary is furious at the little kid's nerve. Suddenly, a figure appears in the sky, yelling and calling him an ungrateful mutt for daring to attack his master. This is our MC's grandfather, who is glaring at him with eyes of pure rage. The villain then understands that the earlier flashy attack was actually a signal to get the family's attention. Just smiles, confirming the clever plan he cooked up. Flashing back a bit, the family arrives at the fight's location, and the butler says the young master is gone. The father complains that the kid can already walk, and the butler informs him that the servant girl has also vanished. Furious, the head of the family yells at his men to hurry up and find the two of them. Just then, they spot the trail of light from our MC's attack, and know exactly where to go. The grandfather then uses his lightning power, and flies at top speed toward the signal. Arriving on the scene, the grandfather immediately sizes up the situation, and the villain starts to panic. He then thinks his only chance is to capture the protagonist to use as a hostage. He charges full speed at the siblings to try and grab them, but the red-haired sister whips out a staff and prepares to attack to protect her brother. She unleashes a powerful blow on the enemy, who totally wasn't expecting that. The man is stunned by the girl's attack and glares at her with pure rage. All of a sudden, the protagonist's father appears, furious, and calls the villain useless for his failures. He then attacks the villain, who tries to flee, claiming none of it was his fault. However, the man ends up cornered by one of the area's giant beasts with nowhere left to run. Without mercy, the creature attacks him all at once, giving him zero chance to escape. After that, the serpent begins to evolve, transforming into a mighty golden creature. The butler rushes over to the children and says that our MC is okay, despite the wound he took. The grandfather praises the girls and says the serpent is now ready for them to harvest its rare treasure. And that's when it hits him. The noble families are using civilians to feed and evolve these beasts. With that, the grandfather and his son prepare to face the powerful golden creature that has emerged. The clash between them then generates a gigantic explosion of red energy throughout the forest. The clash between them sets off a gigantic explosion of red energy that rips through the entire forest. Out of the smoke, two figures emerge as the kids watch everything unfold from a safe distance. Our hero then puts two and two together. The noble families are using civilians to feed and level up these beasts. Right after Grandpa and Dad get ready to throw down with the powerful golden creature that just appeared, he then mentions this harvest was way better than what he was expecting to get that day. Grandpa orders the butler to take the two girls to collect the remaining materials for the warehouse. In his head, the old geezer is already scheming to mix the crummy items with scrap to sell off to the average Joe hunters. And for the high-quality items, he wants to jack up the prices and make the frontline squads pay through the nose. He then hands over the poison sack for his son to use and create some important new connections. All the while, our guy's dad just watches with a sly grin plastered on his face. Grandpa hands over the silver snake's horn to be taken to the auction house. As for the scales, he says he's going to turn them into protective treasures for his precious grandson. Hearing all this, our protagonist is left with a baffled look on his face, completely confused by their actions. With that, the butler bows before his master and agrees to follow all of his orders. However, the kid's dad steps in and asks his father to hand over the Snake King's essence. Grandpa grumbles, saying he has an excellent wife and that it would be better for her son to share with him. Just then, the protagonist's mother approaches, while his sisters watch from the background. Our hero's dad is shocked by her presence and just stares, unable to react. His expression then shifts to anger, and he grits his teeth hard. In his sister's arms, the protagonist looks back and stares at the man with a very serious expression. Grandpa then tosses the snake essence to the butler, who catches it out of the air with ease. Holding the energy sphere, the butler is amazed by the power it's currently radiating. The head of the family says his eldest son is evolving and that this will come in handy. Kneeling, the butler thanks him for his generosity and pledges eternal loyalty to the family. A few days go by, and we see the luxurious Liu Clan mansion under a starry night sky. In the room, our hero holds a pendant, while his sister informs him that Shuang is now his maid. And just like that, the two sisters appear dressed in maid uniforms and smile at him. He then looks at the pendant, and a system prompt informs him he's received a rank, a defensive item. Seeing his expression, one of the girls asks with concern what's wrong with her brother. Suddenly, the boy's eyes glow, and he zaps the pendant with his lightning power. He's using his lightning ability to try and supercharge the pendant. A huge blast of yellow energy then shoots out from his bedroom window. The two sisters stare at our hero, completely shocked by the display of power. Even with the electrical discharge, the pendant remains completely intact without a single scratch. He thinks to himself that this little experiment confirmed that beasts evolve if they devour awakened ones. Our protagonist understands that the noble families use regular people as bait for their schemes. This way, they get their hands on powerful resources and gear that the weak would never have access to. But what they teach at the academy is that the nobles risk their lives to protect the powerless. Remembering all this hypocrisy, our protagonist gets furious and clenches his fists. The sisters then ask if information is really that powerful. He turns and explains that he's only now starting to understand how dangerous a lack of information island. He then says that from now on, they must use the Liu family to gather more intel. With a determined look, the two girls agree to follow their younger brother's plan. A moment Hero asks Shuang why she was with that divine team. She hesitates to answer, and the other sister chimes in that she wants to know why her own power is so strong. The red-headed sister is left speechless, and the other just stares at her intently. Then the protagonist asks about the other sister named San, and the young woman tenses up. Upon hearing the other girl's name, the young woman is completely in shock. With tears in her eyes, she tries to explain what happened to San. She then collapses to the floor and begins to cry her eyes out, unable to stop. At that, the protagonist covers her mouth and warns her that you can't cry loudly there. After calming down, she sits on the bed, still very shaken by the situation. She starts to explain that on that day, Yi went out to look for their brother and never came back. In a flashback, we see a hungry little Shuang staring at a piece of cake. Her hand reaches out to grab the cherry on top of the cake. She has a sad look on her face, waiting for her siblings to come home. She then decides to go look for her brother and Yi so they can come home sooner. So, Shuang starts searching through the dark house, calling out San's name. At her scared, she runs down the dark hallway and asks her sister to stop playing around. Back in the present, the boy is shocked to learn that San ran away from home. She explains that from the rooftop, she saw that the beast tide was caused by a bad person. Our hero asks if the beast tide isn't supposed to be an uncontrollable natural disaster. In her memories, she was desperately searching for San across the city's rooftops. She was then trying to open a door, begging for the little one to get out of there quickly. Just then she looks to the side with an expression of pure fear and worry. On the rooftop, she spotted a mysterious man holding a staff under the full moon. The man's face was hidden in the shadows, but his eyes glowed with an intense red light. He then raised his staff, which began to glow with a powerful energy. With that, he slammed the staff on the ground, releasing a massive wave of energy. An enormous red magic circle then formed on the ground, illuminating the entire area. The circle then shot a beam of red light that ascended toward the dark sky. The beam tore a hole in the sky, creating a red portal. A giant reptilian eye appeared in the portal, and Shuang was utterly terrified. A moment later, the mysterious red portal simply materialized in the night sky, and from it emerged several red demonic beasts, ready to wreak havoc on the city. With tears in her eyes, Shuang is completely terrified, just remembering that scene. In her memories, she was all alone and surrounded by enormous red demonic beasts. From the portal in the sky, countless creatures poured out, attacking everyone in sight. Shuang explained she was being chased by a demon wolf when a panel appeared. The system then notified her that she had awakened a divine power of body cultivation. Following the system's orders, she made an incredible leap between two buildings to escape. Back in the present, she tells them she ran until she found the subjugation team that took her in. Our protagonist is stunned that another system has appeared, and by all the miracles happening to them. Yi says that if they all have systems, San might have one too, and could still be alive. Our hero agrees, and says they will use the Liu family's network to find clues about her. Suddenly, Shuang says she received a task from the system with a reward. Without any warning, she scoops her brother up in her arms, leaving him completely surprised. He's terrified and wonders if that is going to happen to him again. The two sisters run off excitedly, because the system's mission is to give their brother a bath once more. The two sisters are excitedly running through the mansion with our MC, who's yelling his head off about their wacky system. And just like that, they reach a massive, luxurious bathroom to start the mission they were given. The redhead then lifts our little guy into the air, commenting on how cute he is, while the other one totally agrees. His sister keeps up the teasing, seeming to find the whole situation pretty hilarious. This leaves our boy completely mortified, and he starts screaming his lungs out from sheer embarrassment. Now in the tub, one of the sisters washes his hair, while the other watches him with a smile. The two of them seem to be having a blast, splashing water everywhere. During the young master's bath time, after the bath, they hold him and comment on what a good little boy he was, but he complains that they've changed. Suddenly, red-haired sister stops dead in her tracks, a very nervous expression washing over her face. Seeing her reaction, our MC worriedly asks what happened to make her look like that. She then points with a terrified look on her face, revealing that the beast tide was caused by that person. The protagonist and his other sister are completely floored by the revelation they just heard. Elsewhere, we see the butler walking alongside a man with a scar on his face. Zooming in, we get a better look at the man's face, which has a very serious and intimidating gaze. In a flashback, the girl sees the same man on a rooftop using a staff to create the beast tide. In her memory, the man creates an enormous red magic circle that tears open the sky. From this portal, a giant reptilian eye appears, leaving the girl absolutely terrified. So, our MC declares that he's the son of the future family head and tells them not to freak out. With that, the three of them continue down the hall, while the two men walk further ahead. Our MC glares at them with a serious and suspicious expression as they pass by. As they walk past him, the red-haired sister gets extremely nervous and can't hide her fear. The man with the scar notices the girl's reaction, but doesn't say a single word. Getting closer, the two sisters greet the butler with forced smiles on their faces. The butler then bows to our MC, addressing him respectfully as well, "Master." The protagonist watches the two of them walk away down the hall with a very stern look. They arrive at a door, and the butler announces that Joe King has returned to see the master of the house. Our MC realizes it's the meeting room and decides to eavesdrop on their conversation. His sister gets worried and asks if they won't be discovered there, but he tells her not to worry, seeming to have a plan in mind for this. With the plan in motion, they sneak closer to the door. The protagonist then bursts into the room with his sisters, and a guard yells that he can't go in. Inside, his grandfather is sitting at his desk with the two men, who look at the scene in surprise. The sisters bow and apologize desperately, saying they couldn't hold the MC back. But the little guy ignores all of it and runs with his arms wide open, calling for his grandpa. The head of the family dismisses the others, and tells his grandson to come to him with a smile. With our MC on his lap, he talks about the family's power and asks about the new beast tides. The butler and the man with the scar listen attentively to the master's orders. The man then reports that they have already found new groups of beasts and could attack at any moment. Hearing this, our young hero gets furious, realizing the academy is lying and sending students straight into a danger zone. In a flashback, we see a teacher saying that the tides are a natural disaster, and that the awakened are protectors. The butler says he has already made arrangements for the guild to post missions with high rewards, attracting many teams. The grandfather praises the man, saying his family has served theirs for 3 generations, and he is very pleased with that. The butler then makes a gesture to the man with the scar, who seems to get the message immediately. Without a second thought, the man kneels on the floor and says it's an honor to work for the Liu family. The butler thanks him for the gift that helped his son reach peak B rank, and expresses his gratitude for the master's kindness. The family head smiles and orders them to proceed with the beast tide plan as they had arranged. The man remains kneeling and accepts his master's order without question. The grandfather also orders them to prepare expensive equipment and entertainment services for the survivors. See a flashback of a guy who looks like a younger version of our MCS grandpa, chilling in a hot spring with several girls while a maid watches from a distance. The butler bows before his master and accepts all the given orders without hesitation. Night falls, and we see the enormous and luxurious Liu family mansion under the moonlight. Back in the room, our MC explains the family's plan to his sisters to open portals and use people as bait. He says they use the awakened to fight the beasts, allowing them to gather tons of valuable resources. His sister is outraged and asks how they can be so cruel, wondering if those people aren't considered human. Our MC then explains that to the nobles, they are the only humans, and everyone else is just livestock. The red-haired sister suggests telling everyone about the plan, but our young man cuts her off. He says that even if they tell the truth, nobody will believe them. This leaves the two of them worried, and they ask their brother what they should do now. Our MC then declares that they are going to take down the Liu family's goons and stop the beast tide. He then calls his two sisters closer to him to explain the plan. The two girls lean in to hear what he has to say. Whispering, he tells them his plan, and they listen with full attention. The boy asks if they understood everything, and the two of them nod in confirmation, but they're still worried, asking if they can really defeat such a strong enemy. Our MC says they have 3 weeks to prepare since the plan kicks off at the end of the month. He holds up his baby bottle and says they need to power up, but his sister is totally confused about how. In that moment, our young hero and his white hair striates exchange a knowing glance. Without waiting, he puts the baby bottle in the other sister's mouth, who is taken by surprise. She drinks the milk and is shocked to feel her power skyrocketing without even training. Our MC then runs off, saying he's gonna get a bite to eat too while they finish the milk. The MC's mother is meditating peacefully when she's suddenly interrupted by her son. She then complains that his appetite just keeps growing, calling him a little brat for never being satisfied. 3 weeks later, our MC wonders if he's hit his limit while looking at a system screen. The system informs him about a new skill, and he wonders if he can be Crayborn into a host. He considers if he can recover to his current state without having to, spend another 9 months in the womb. Furthermore, Our young man realizes he can use his new skill as an attack method. An illustration shows how his new technique can be used to directly attack his enemies. Just then, his sisters burst through the door excitedly, saying that everything is all set.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.